Good morning, students. Welcome to the online classes of RPS Group of Schools. Today, we will study Module 3, that is a continued part of the chapter Conservation of Biodiversity. In this module, we will learn the causes of wildlife depletion. We will learn about a term extinction. We will study about Red Data Book, wildlife and its conservation, and what are the various strategies of wildlife conservation. Causes of depletion of wildlife. The important causes of depletion includes climate change. Climate change is a major factor that could destroy the terrestrial organisms. During the end of the last ice age, most of the fauna were unable to adapt the changing warm temperatures. They died due to lack of food and hunting by early humans. The another important cause is diseases. Various epidemics have been the cause of extinction of a large population of animals on the earth. The third cause is the asteroid strikes. A meteor strike on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico led to the disappearance of dinosaurs millions of years ago. Most of the mass extinctions were caused due to such events. Loss of habitat. Every animal has its own comfort zone where it can breed and raise its young ones. Due to expansion of human civilization and industrialization, the forests have been destroyed, which are an abode to most of the animals. Due to the lack of space and eventually food, the population of many organisms have been minimized. Lack of genetic diversity. Once the number of species starts decreasing, the gene pool of that species grows smaller. Eventually, there is a lack of genetic diversity. Better adapted competition. The better adapted populations win over the ones that lag behind. The ones which are well adapted survive while the other become extinct. The last cause is the pollution. The pollution from the industries and vehicles have led to a drastic change in the oxygen levels in the atmosphere as well as in water. This has led to the extinction of most of the aquatic as well as terrestrial species. Extinction of species. What do you mean by the term extinction? Extinction is the process of evolution that leads to the disappearance of a population or a species. Or you can also define it as extinction is the cessation of existence of a species or a group. Extinction is the termination of a kind of organism, group, which are lost forever or disappeared from the earth or biosphere. What are extinct species? Extinct species are the animals or plants that have disappeared and no longer exist anywhere on the earth. Examples are Archaeopteryx, dinosaurs, bird dodo, and many more. Threatened species. The species of plants and animals whose members are greatly reduced in number or are on the verge of extinction are called threatened species. IUCN or WCU has classified threatened species into the following categories. These categories are endangered species, vulnerable species, and rare species. Endangered species. The species which are not likely to survive and will soon become extinct if the causative factors continue are called endangered species. The examples are Asiatic lion, lion-tailed macaque, crocodile, blue whale, Indian rhinoceros, etc. Vulnerable species. The species which are likely to move to the endangered category in near future in the presence of causative factors. Examples are black buck, golden langur, chinkara, deer, etc. Rare species. Species which are existing but are very less in number are known as rare species. Examples are golden cat, wild buffalo, Asiatic wild ass, etc. Red Data Book. The book which contains a record of all those species of plants and animals which are under the threat of extinction or are rare and vulnerable for extinction. The Red Data Book is maintained by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, now called as WCU, that is World Conservation Union. This book provides information about the distribution and status of threatened species and guides their conservation programs. Conservation of wildlife. Conservation refers to preservation and management of plant and animal species to protect them from being extinct. Wildlife refers to all the plants, animals, and other organisms found in their environment or habitat. Forest can be conserved by maintaining biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, and national parks, zoological parks, and botanical parks. What are the various strategies of wildlife conservation? The various strategies that we can follow to conserve the wildlife are hunting regulations, captive breeding, and protected areas. Let's discuss one by one. Hunting regulations. Strict laws are required to regulate hunting or poaching of animals. Hunting of endangered species should be banned. Destruction of natural habitats of wild animals should be prevented. Captive breeding. Captive breeding, also known as captive propagation, is the process of maintaining plants or animals in controlled environments and where they are allowed to breed to produce their future generations. In some cases, a captive breeding program can save a species from extinction. Some wildlife breeding projects in India. The government of India started some breeding projects to save the endangered species. Some of them are Project Tiger, Gir Lion Tiger, Gir Lion Project, Crocodile Breeding Project, Himalayan Musk Deer Project, and Rhino Conservation Project. National Park. These are some of the protected areas where the wildlife can be conserved naturally. A national park is a protected area which prevails natural conditions to provide natural habitat to wildlife. A national park reserve is large and diverse enough to protect a whole set of ecosystem. National Park preserve flora, fauna, landscape, and historic objects of an area. For example, in the Satpura National Park, Rock shelters and rock paintings are also preserved along with the flora and the fauna of that area. First national park was established in Uttarakhand in the year 1936, named Jim Corbett National Park. As of 2018, there are 104 national parks in India. Wildlife sanctuaries. These are the protected areas which provide protection and suitable living conditions to wild animals. Sanctuaries are places where killing, poaching, or capturing of animals is strictly prohibited. Private ownership rights for collecting minor forest products, harvesting of timber, and cultivation are granted so long as they do not interfere with the life of wild animals. A sanctuary may be a reserved natural area meant for the preservation and development of threatened, endangered species. For example, there is the Kaziranga Wildlife Sanctuary for rhinoceros in Assam. In India, there are 544 wildlife sanctuaries. Biosphere Reserve. A larger protected area meant for conservation of biodiversity and culture of that area is called Biosphere Reserve. A biosphere may consist of other protected areas such as national parks and sanctuaries. For example, Pachmani Biosphere Reserve consists of one national park called Satpura and two wildlife sanctuaries known as Bori and Pachmani. A biosphere reserve comprises an area which can be divided into many zones, each having a particular activity. The zones of biosphere reserve can be named as core, buffer, and manipulation zone. Core zone. This one is the innermost zone and there no human activity is permitted. Buffer zone. Limited human activity is allowed there. Manipulation zone. Several human activities are permitted here. Biosphere reserves help in protecting wild population, traditional lifestyle of regional people or tribal, and also domestication of plant and animal life. Pachmani Biosphere Reserve and Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve are the important biosphere reserves of India. There are 18 biosphere reserves in India. Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve is the first reserve established in India. Legal provisions for conservation of biodiversity. In our country, several legal provisions or acts related to conservation of wildlife and forest have been enacted by the Government of India. The Forest Conservation Act empowers the government and Forest Department to create and manage reserved forest, protected forest, and village forest, conserve forest as a natural heritage, control the movement of forest produce, and control and regulate cattle grazing in the forest. Wildlife Protection Act. The objectives of this act are as follows. Prohibition of hunting of the listed threatened species, setting up and management of national parks, sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves for the conservation of biodiversity, control and management of captive breeding, and protection of specific plants and natural habitats of animals. Children, just note the word biodiversity was actually coined by Walter G. Rusin. It was popularized by E.O. Wilson in the year 1985. That's all. with this module. Thank you very much, students. Take care of yourself. Goodbye.